All right, if you're an engineering leader, you know just how much DevOps totally transformed the game. But the next evolution is already knocking on the door. And this time, it's not just about more automation, it's about autonomy. So let's break down exactly what this new era means for you, your team, and the way you manage.
You know, the best way to think about it is this. For the last decade, we've been giving our CI/CD pipelines tools to work with. Now we're giving them teammates. This is the big idea, the fundamental shift from DevOps to what we're now calling AgentOps.
I mean, if you look back, the progression just makes sense, right? We started with these slow, manual, step-by-step waterfall models, then came the incredible speed and automation of DevOps and CI/CD, and now we're stepping into a world where specialized AI agents don't just run the scripts we wrote. They plan, they coordinate, and they manage the entire lifecycle themselves. It really is the next logical step.
Okay, so to help you get your head around all this, we've put together a kind of manager's guide. We're going to cover what this evolution really means, introduce you to your new AI team, and talk about how your role changes. Then we'll get real about who's actually doing this today and wrap up with how to navigate what's coming next. So let's start with that core idea. DevOps was all about humans building and managing automated systems. AgentOps, that's about humans supervising autonomous agents that run the whole show themselves. It's a huge shift from being the operator of a tool to being the supervisor of an outcome. And the engine behind this is what we call an agentic workflow. Now, this isn't some single, all-powerful AI trying to do everything. No, it's much smarter than that. It's a whole system of specialized agents, each one an expert at its job, and they all work together. They plan, they code, they test, they deploy, all while talking to each other. And this part is absolutely crucial. It all happens under human supervision. Probably the easiest way to understand this is to literally think of these agents as your new team members. And just like any great team, every member has a very specific role to play. So let's take a look at a blueprint for how this might actually work. So in this reference architecture, it's going to look pretty familiar to your current pipeline, but the difference is who's doing the work. A planning agent kicks things off, taking your user stories and turning them into a real technical spec. Then a coding agent gets to work, writes the code, and opens a PR. That's the signal for a whole team of QA agents to swarm in, generating tests, checking for security holes, you name it. And finally, a deploy agent and an SRE agent team up to manage the release and keep a close eye on it in production. And you can get really specialized here, which is where the magic happens. You've got a coordinator agent that acts like a team lead, figuring out who does what next. You've got a triage agent that does the initial sanity checks on new code. A dedicated security agent is your 24/7 guard, while an observability agent is glued to your dashboards, watching your SLOs. And get this, if something does go wrong, you have a post-mortem agent that steps in to write the first draft of the incident report. How cool is that? Okay, so you have this amazing new AI team. The million-dollar question is, what's left for you to do? And this is so important. It's not about being replaced, it's about being elevated. Your job evolves. Your focus moves from the tactical day-to-day to the high-level and strategic. Let's just put it side by side. The old role, managing tasks, worrying about process. The new role, you're setting the goals. You're defining what success looks like. Instead of assigning tickets to your human engineers, you're supervising the agents and reviewing what they produce. You get to pull yourself out of the weeds of implementation details and focus on what really matters: high-level architecture, strategy, and safety. This really drives home the point that humans are more important than ever. We're just needed at different and, frankly, more critical points. You are the strategic checkpoint. You're the one who approves the initial plan. You give the final thumbs up on that pull request before it merges. You validate the release strategy. And most importantly, you're the one who tackles the really thorny, complex problems and novel architectural challenges that agents just can't handle yet. So that's the grand vision. But how much of this is just hype and how much is actually happening right now? Let's ground ourselves and take a look at what's really going on out there, because not everyone is taking the same approach. Right now, we're seeing two main paths develop. On one hand, you've got the enterprise giants. Think Uber, Airbnb. They are all in on what's called MLOps. It's basically DevOps for machine learning, super automated, rule-based, and built for predictable, massive-scale tasks. But on the other hand, you have innovators like OpenObserve who are diving headfirst into these truly autonomous, adaptive, agentic workflows to solve more complex, dynamic problems.
And the OpenObserve case study is just a fantastic example of a real agentic system in the wild. They didn't just automate a few tests. They built what they called a council of sub-agents to run their entire QA process. The big takeaway here, they didn't try to build one super agent, they embraced specialization. And the results they saw? Honestly, they're staggering. First off, they doubled their automated test coverage. Just think about that. Their agent council could just look at new code, understand its purpose, and then automatically generate all the tests it needed. That's a scale that a human team could only dream of maintaining. This led to some just massive efficiency gains. By letting the agents handle reading product requirements and code changes, the time it took to figure out what needed to be tested dropped by 90%. A task that used to eat up an hour of an engineer's time now took the agents about 5 or 10 minutes.
But here's the one that really gets me. They saw an 85% drop in flaky tests. You know how painful those are, right? Well, they had a dedicated agent whose only job was to hunt down, try to fix, and then validate those unreliable tests. It's the kind of tedious, thankless work that's absolutely crucial but so often gets pushed to the back burner. Not anymore.
Those results are incredibly compelling, but let's be real, this is still a new frontier. So how do you actually prepare your team for this autonomous future? Well, it starts with being really clear-eyed about the challenges and completely rethinking how you measure success. First, we gotta be honest about the risks. Agents can hallucinate and write buggy code with 100% confidence. They can accidentally introduce security holes or carry forward biases from their training data. And look, they aren't magic. They really struggle with genuinely new architectural patterns or messy legacy code. Plus, their autonomous actions could easily run afoul of compliance rules. Your new job as a supervisor is to manage these risks.
And as your team's work evolves, your metrics have to evolve too. You're going to stop looking just at developer velocity and start tracking the total cycle time from an agent-generated spec all the way to deployment. You'll need to measure the agent-induced bug rate, the cost for each autonomous task, and of course, what percentage of PRs are coming from agents. And maybe the most important new metric, the human intervention rate. How often do your people have to step in and take over? Look, this isn't science fiction anymore. The tools are here, the case studies are real, and the shift from automation to autonomy is happening right now. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. When your competitor's software starts to write, test, and deploy itself, where will your team be? What will they be focused on with their uniquely human intelligence?